Welcome to another Bluebird Chat. This time it's with Catherine Bobkoski, who will teach us how to paint luscious florals and roses. Hi everybody, this is Beth Cooper from Bluebird Studios in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I'm here today with Catherine Bobkoski.
Bobkoski.
Bobkoski, okay.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about her upcoming workshop that will be in May. And she just paints the most gorgeous roses that I had ever seen. I discovered her on Instagram and I watched her technique with this brayer and rollers, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we never met in person, so this is always kind of a good way for us to get to know each other before you actually arrive in Santa Fe. So,
Yeah, and I'm so excited to be there. Santa Fe is so beautiful and your home looks so beautiful and you have cute dogs, so I'm excited to
I
come
do.
visit.
They're cute, but I have the two German Shepherds, so hopefully that you do like dogs.
I love dogs. I love dogs.
Good, good, good. I was saying before I started recording that I just saw your work on Instagram, and your roses are just luscious. And so
Thank
let me
you.
ask you this. Do you paint other flowers besides roses?
Yeah, I do occasionally. I paint I love to paint daisies and sunflowers and ranunculus and stuff like that. But my favorite is definitely roses. It's a very special flower to me, I guess. There's just so much history and symbolism around the rose.
Hmm.
And there's some other flowers I actually feel like are, maybe more difficult to paint actually, like painting peonies, I think is really hard.
Yeah.
Um,
And
lilies
irises.
are very difficult. I just love roses so much. And I think they're very challenging in other ways too, that probably it's true almost anytime you're painting a flower, but the way roses grow, sometimes I
Hmm.
find they don't always give you the most beautiful composition, just the way that they grow on the shrub. And so
Right.
you have to do a lot of work to create it into some kind of a composition that's actually coherent and, beautiful and makes sense. I do paint other flowers and paint other subjects too, besides flowers as well, but
Yeah.
definitely roses are my favorite.
Great. Well, we I know this isn't a plein air class, but we do have a beautiful rose garden here.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. I'm really excited now.
Yeah.
That's great.
And it's just a big spot for the, plein air painters to go. So maybe we can work that in somehow. We'll just
Yeah.
see, okay, so during this workshop, will you be focusing mostly on roses or just florals? Catherine and I were just talking about what kind of flowers she's going to paint, and obviously she's best known, I think, for her roses. But Catherine, you want to just talk a little bit about what the students can expect?
We'll start with painting some more simple flowers first. That's generally how I teach it because we will for sure paint roses because I love roses. And as you said, Beth, that's like kind of the thing I'm known for.
Mhm.
So we'll definitely paint roses, but I don't like to always start out with roses from the outset because they are so complicated. And there's other concepts that I like to introduce first, and it's usually easier to do that with a more simple kind of flower shape, daisies or something like that, chrysanthemums, something that has a little bit of a more easily understood kind of structure. And
Mhm.
then that gives us an opportunity to, think about form more clearly, more specifically, to gather some skills in how to slowly develop and render detail, and do that while maintaining a sense of form. Thinking about light, how does light interact with the form? So
Mhm.
we can understand all of those sort of more foundational concepts first with a more simple flower, and then sort of graduate to painting roses.
Okay, because we'll have 4 days, and that's a lot of painting time with you in the studio.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it'll be fun. And that's just a great time of the year to have a floral workshop, in the spring. Um, I was just looking, you are oil only, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. I say oils only because the different tools that I use to paint with don't always translate so well to other mediums.
Hmm.
So it's hard to use like sprayers and paint scrapers and stuff like that with like watercolor or gouache, for
Oh yeah.
example. It just doesn't quite work the same way.
Yeah, I
So that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell everybody the class runs May 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. And the evening, and Catherine, I don't even know if you know this, but the evening of the 5th, I host an icebreaker. And it's at 5 p.m. and everybody can bring wine, or I can't serve alcohol legally, but everybody can bring their own. And I have soft drinks and chips and dips. And that's a way to find the studio, get your spot set up, meet Catherine, feel comfortable coming the next morning. So that just lasts for an hour. It's very casual, not mandatory. And then the next day we start class from 9 to 4. Yeah, that's what we have in your schedule. And so I provide a free continental breakfast. So I tell everybody get here by 8:15, 8:30 at the latest to get your coffee. I have bagels, yogurt, cereal, excuse me, hard-boiled eggs, and it's quite a bit to eat. So everybody can get settled, and we'll start class right at 9. And I bring in catered lunches to the studio, and they're $20. Every day it's different, except for the last day, I provide a complimentary lunch, which is a frito chili pie. We'll just stay in the studio all day. Class ends at 4, and one evening, probably on the 8th, we'll go out. We'll start earlier in the day, 8:30. We'll end at 3:30, so we don't miss out on teaching or painting time. And then we'll go down to Canyon Road and explore some galleries. And then we'll go out for a group dinner somewhere Santa Fe-ish. So it's really
That
fun.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, it
Yeah, that
is.
sounds like so
Yes.
much fun.
It's a lot of fun. So I encourage everybody to go look at Catherine's Instagram page. And her last name is spelled Bobkoski.
Surprising to people a lot, I think, where the painting sort of starts. And it
Hmm.
might really look like a mess. It might not look like much to speak of at all, but it ends up a completely different place.
Yeah.
And
It's
I think
like,
that's,
yeah.
yeah, go
It's like
ahead. Go
you're
ahead. Sorry.
watching, it's like you're watching the flower bloom. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's how I try to think of it when I'm painting, is
Uh-huh.
to paint almost from like the inside out in some ways,
Oh yeah.
which we'll talk about also in the workshop.
Hmm.
How to build up the painting in a logical way,
Hmm.
and I think it's good to maybe even look at examples like that, like what I show on my Instagram, because so often I think when students start painting this way, they will think, oh, this doesn't look like anything. I did something wrong. It's a
Right.
mess.
Yeah.
And you have to just sort of hold back that judgment and not be too quick to like give up on it and just let the process happen.
Yeah.
And then, slowly you can see, yeah, the flowers start to unfold and
That's
bloom.
so cool. Well, so tell me about when you do teach a live workshop, how do you structure your workshops?
Yeah, we're so lucky we have this nice, like, long workshop. So that's a luxury.
Mhm.
Really nice. So I like to do some lecture because I think it's for certain things that I like to explain or describe to students. It's really nice to have that in some kind of writing laid out really clearly, you know. So I like to put together like slideshows with really fun pictures and nice illustrations of things so that people can kind of grasp some of the concepts like even simple things like what is gesture and structure, or what are the components of color, so breaking some of those things down into more specific parts is really helpful, I find, because it changes how you think when you're painting, and it kind of opens up new ways of observing yourself.
I'm getting
Yeah.
really excited for this. I really am. was like,
Good.
okay, I'm gonna go paint flowers, even though it was 4 degrees this morning in Santa Fe.
I do like to demonstrate. I'll probably do some demonstration every day because another thing that I like to do, especially when working with the different painting tools, is to like build up the painting sort of gradually. So you might start with something almost abstract and very like blocky, the
Mhm.
first day. And then once the paint has had a chance to kind of dry up a little bit. Once the painting has had a chance to set, you can go back over it and kind of start to build up slowly more detail in a
Mhm.
more controlled way. So it's always this tension I like to think of between abstraction and being really expressive, and then
Mhm.
being really controlled and very deliberate.
Yeah,
And working on the painting over a couple days really, gives you the opportunity to do that. So
it
that's
seems
how I like
like
to demo.
you would that technique, I mean, is good for all subject matter, not just,
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
absolutely. And yeah, you could totally do so much with the same kind of approach, the same tools, the same thought process, everything.
Mhm.
But yeah, apply it to a completely different subject matter. And I've done like portraits and things like that too,
Yeah.
with the same approach. I mean, it's just flowers because I love flowers. But even if you aren't that into flowers, you can still, I think, learn a ton and then apply that to your own subject matter that is really interesting to you. This selection of colors.
Mhm.
But when we actually pick the flowers that we'll paint, the palette that we would use to paint that flower might be more like 5 or 6 or 7, something like that.
Mhm.
Um, because I mean, really, you don't need that many colors to paint most flowers. They're actually pretty simple
Right.
in terms of the color. If you're using the colors that you have on your palette really efficiently, you can do a lot with like a couple of earth tones, maybe one, saturated color, depending
Mhm.
on the type of flower, a green, a black, and you're set. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's something I'll talk about too, how to select the actual colors that you really need for that particular subject.
So when we set up the still lifes, right?
Mhm.
I'm guessing we'll have several around the room, if so people aren't crowded around the same.
Yeah. So usually when I'm teaching workshops like this in person, I really try to get students to focus more on what is the really critical thing? What is the flower like? And maybe a bit of the foliage, maybe a little bit of a background, but not to get too distracted with like a whole still life scenario, because it just gets overwhelming and it's too much to cover, frankly, in a workshop. It's like, let's really focus on the thing. I mean, it's definitely true that practicing, you'll get better at something. Um, but I try to, make things a little bit more systematic in some ways, so that you can be more targeted with your thought process and your problem solving.
I just want people to know too, they always feel like, oh, I'm not good enough to take a class yet. And
You are good enough. Don't say that.
I know people tell me that all the time. And it's like, if your heart's there, your interest is there, and you aren't really in class to make, the next, Van Gogh floral painting.
Mhm.
You're there to learn. So, we can't be
Yeah.
intimidated by that. So,
Yes, 100%. I heard something lately. I think I don't know that much about this. I'm sure people listening probably know more about this than I do, but there's a phrase I think in the Yoga Sutras about you have to practice every day and you have to be unattached every day. So it's like you show up and you practice, and then you're kind of like, that's what happened. And then you just next day do it again. Like you don't have to be so emotionally invested in something. It's an experience, right?
mhm.
And you just keep your practice going. Guess what? You're going to get stronger. You're going to learn more. You're going to find new things that inspire you and make you feel excited. And the whole the way to keep progressing with that is to just not have too much attachment. Just be willing to paint and mess up and fail, and then as you're doing that, you're going to have a lot of successes too.
It's
So
so, I love that. I love it. I
okay.
learned so much just from talking to my instructors like this. Like that has helped me, what you just
Oh,
said.
good. Great.
So. That, yeah, that's a great way to end though, because yeah, you got to just do it. You can't just sit down and play, some concerto on the piano unless you practice. I mean,
Exactly. Do little things to move up along the way. But each of those steps is so exciting, right?
yeah,
Each time you learn a little thing and you can see some improvement, it is so self-reinforcing because you just get so excited and inspired
yeah,
by seeing what
yeah,
you can do. So
yeah.
just start.
Yeah. Thank you, Catherine. You've given me some great insights already just in this short conversation we've had. So I can't imagine what I'm going to learn from you in 4 days.
Well, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And I will
Thank
see you
you.
in May.
See you in May. Thank you so much.
Thanks.